So there were another time also went to see the Indian ambassador with Prabhupada. That was a very nice occasion, and we didn't have a car at the time. Actually, the temple was very poor, so we went to see the Indian ambassador, and I had to announce amongst the guests. I said, "Has anyone got a car we could use?" There was a few guests there. So one hippie said, "I've got one, and your Swami can use it." And we looked outside, and it was a beetle, but it was all flowers on it. It was like it was a ridiculous-looking car, you know. And I thought, boy, Prabhupada, how can we put Prabhupada in this? But we had to go for the meeting. So we got in the car with Srila Prabhupada, Shyam Sundar, myself, and there was Prabhupada, and this hippie driving. So we went off down to the Indian embassy. And one of the things I remember about the meeting was when we got to see the Indian ambassador, Prabhupada just sat there and he was so relaxed, he was so transcendental. And at the same time, he was just talking about Srila Rupa Goswami. So I knew Prabhupada had come for some intention. So I was thinking, I didn't exactly know why he'd come. Later on I found out he'd come to get 5-year visas, for his missionary visas for his devotees in India and America, the American devotees particularly. And so he was talking about Srila Rupa Goswami and the Goswamis, and then he showed him nectar devotion, he gave him nectar devotion, and for about half an hour Prabhupada just talked about the Goswamis. And then at the end of it, so the gentleman was so kind of purified, the Indian ambassador, so then he started talking to him in a very personal way. He called him by his first name. He said, so, Abhay Pant was his name, I think, not Abhay, Abu Pant or something. And he said, so Abu, last time I was here, you said, Swamiji, whatever you want, I will do, you know, if I can help you. He said, so now I have one request. And by that time, they were in such nice relationship that he couldn't refuse. You know, Prabhupada completely melted him. And he wanted him to get in touch with Indira Gandhi. And he wanted him to arrange for the 5-year visas. So, as I remember it, he went off at that time, and the Indian ambassadors he was going to contact through Delhi, the Indira Gandhi. And, but it was just such an amazing way that Prabhupada had actually kind of, you know, softened him by talking about the Goswamis and the philosophy. So, you know, it fascinated me how he dealt with that particular person, because there was no kind of business-like stuff. It was just that Prabhupada was, you could see, he was an ambassador from the Goswamis, and he was meeting the Indian ambassador, and he did it on his grounds. He didn't do it on their grounds. He didn't behave like a diplomat or in any way try to conform to their idea of negotiations. And that really kind of struck on me.
Another nice story, one time Prabhupada was here, and he wasn't very well, as I remember, but still he wanted to go and visit Radhalandaneshwara. It must have been 73 or 4. It was earlier on. So we arranged the vehicle. I think it was the only time I ever drove Srila Prabhupada in the car. So we drove down to Berry Place, and many devotees were there, and after greeting the deities, Prabhupada sat on his Vyasasana, and he said, there's a song about Radharani, you know? And Yogeshwara was there, and he tried to sing the song. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daya. But he got about that far, and it was obvious he didn't know any more words, so he was trying to sing, and Prabhupada was sitting smiling. And so Prabhupada took over and began to sing, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava. And so he sang, and we were trying to follow with him, because we'd not heard it before. Or even if we had, we didn't really know it very well. And then Kirtan, he went into Kirtan, Hare Krishna Kirtan, and I remember very clearly this particular day. So that after he rose from the Vyasasana, he was going to leave the temple, and devotees made way for Prabhupada, and I just ducked out first through the door because I wanted to put his slippers on. So as I got out the door, Prabhupada came into the doorway, and at Berry Place it was not a very big doorway, it was just big enough for one person or maybe two to go through together. So Prabhupada was standing in the doorway and all the devotees were behind him chanting and dancing and leaping in ecstasy. I mean, it really was a blissful kirtan. And as Prabhupada got to the door, Yogeshwar shouted out, "Srila Prabhupada, you are Radharani's mercy personified." And all the devotees went, "Jai." And I was just at that moment putting Srila Prabhupada's slippers on. And I thought, I'm going to look up and see how he reacts to that. So I looked up. And as I looked up, Prabhupada looked down at me, and I won't try to imitate him, but I'm trying to feel how he said it. But he said, Radharani's mercy contaminated. I was the only one that I know, because there was a full kirtan behind him. So I was just spent the last 20 years trying to meditate on, understand Prabhupada's humility to say that, but then I also wonder sometimes whether he was talking to me, that I'm touching his feet, and now I'm Radharani's mercy contaminated. So there's different ways to look at everything, as we know. Try to see both sides of that one.
Another time when I was present with Prabhupada and he was speaking with a cardinal in Rome, Cardinal Pignedoli. This cardinal happened to be also the Bishop of Bombay, and he had met the devotees in Bombay. So he kept saying to Prabhupada, he said, what you're doing and what we are doing is just the same thing. And then Prabhupada said, yes, but we have our book Bhagavad Gita, and he presented Prabhupada a copy. Prabhupada presented a copy to Cardinal Pignedoli. You should read this, because this will give you more understanding on how to surrender oneself to God. Srila Prabhupada made a comment to me when I was in Rome that Italians are religious by nature and they want the blessings of God. You see how many flock to St. Peter's Square whenever the Pope is there, and giving his talk. He said they want the blessings of God, but they don't know how to get those blessings. He said we should teach them how to become qualified for the blessings of God. So he said this is the most important ingredient that's missing within the Catholic teachings, is how to become qualified.